Okay. Welcome, everyone.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, welcome to the December meeting of the Monroe County Land Bank Corporation. We today are going to have 3 agenda items with quorum votes. Start with a roll call. Kevin Purcell here, Annalise.
Here.
Amy Grande.
Here.
Orlando Ortiz.
Here.
Deborah Campanoa.
Here.
Robert Franklin. Here. And Thalia Wright is not present at the moment. First item is the approval of the November 1st, 2024 meeting minutes. Are there any corrections to the previous meeting minutes from that? If anyone has. Okay, seeing none, I move to approve the meeting minutes as distributed. Can I have a second?
Second.
A second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next, we will move on to announcements and communications, and I will turn it back over to you, Pat.
Sounds good. So welcome, everyone. A couple updates on things we talked about the last meeting. The Land Bank Initiative application was submitted on December 6th. My mother's birthday, so I think that's a good sign. We have had some communications with them indicating that it will be funded, essentially paperwork back and forth, but not a formal commitment letter. So we are hopeful that that will be coming soon. But I believe that will be the case. ARPA funding, that contract process is underway with the county. It's working through the steps. And we anticipate that that will be done before the 31st of this year as well. So no final things with that, but we are on pace to get those done before the end of the year. A couple other things, some various organizational mechanical stuff has been done. Thank you to the law department and the finance department for making sure that we have some forms completed. You all have a copy of the 2025 meeting schedule. We don't have a time set on that schedule, but we do believe 4 o'clock would be a good time. And we wanted to ask if that works for this board to continue. It's the second Tuesday. One thing that I know Kevin and I spoke about is that is the proposed meeting calendar. If we don't have a reason to meet, we will cancel the meeting. So it doesn't necessarily mean we will be meeting every one of those months. And so we will talk about that and figure it out as we move forward.
And just to, I think you
Yep.
said second Tuesday, just want to make
Yep.
sure, second Wednesday.
Oh, thank you. Sorry,
Yep.
Kevin. And I think that's it for me.
Okay, thank you, Pat. And I will note Thalia is here.
So
Hello,
sorry.
it's great to see you. You too. First action item. We, in the course of moving forward with some of the grants and the paperwork that we have, there is some ministerial items where I've been asked to sign on behalf of the land bank. And we thought it made sense to get a approval from the board and for an ongoing basis when we have those things come up. These are obviously not major items where we would have a discussion or if anything that would be worth discussing, but to make sure we keep things moving. Just wanted to see if anyone has any issue with that. Okay, then I will make a motion authorizing myself as chair to execute any basic and requisite organizational documents and or forms on behalf of the Monroe County Land Bank Corporation.
Second that.
Thank you, Anna. All in favor?
Aye.
Then none opposed? Great. The next action item is our 2025 proposed budget. And Pat, you want to, anything on here you want to?
Yeah,
Specifically.
if you'd like to get started, I can follow up, or if you want me to get started.
If you wouldn't mind, that'd be great.
Absolutely. So, and actually, I should have brought up the slides. I apologize, I didn't. But you have them in front of you, so you can take a look there. So before you is a proposed 2025 budget that is in line with our pending funding from ARPA funding and the Land Bank Initiative funding. In that budget, you'll see that we anticipate having revenue of $1.1 million for the first year. And then we have expenses that total potentially $378,950 for that first year as well. In that specific expense chunks are using some of the LBI funding and then using some of the ARPA funding. So up top, you'll see there's insurance, dues and fees, professional fees, which potentially include legal fees, independent audit, consultant services, something else if we need. And so those total about, what do we have here? About $67,000. And then some organizational requirements is totals another $61,000. Those are largely LBI funds that we will be utilizing there. All of those are conservative in the sense that we anticipate that we will have sufficient funds for those purposes and likely won't spend up to that dollar value, but we want to have them available if need be. The other thing you'll see here is towards the middle section, property acquisition, property stabilization, property maintenance, property demolition, and rehab. That totals $250,000. And that is for if we cannot find a house through the property auction, if we have any issues with that, we might need to purchase one. So that's what that funding is potentially there for. And then for the stabilization, if it has holes, if it has windows that we need to worry about, there are things we can immediately do, mowing the lawn through the summer. Property demolition and rehab, that it entails the actual work of getting a building from whatever its current state is to its present state. These numbers are based on research and work we've used through community development and some other land banks. With that being said, we fully anticipate that some of this will change as we learn things, as we move forward. If there is as we move forward, we will realize what we can and cannot do, and we may need to come back to this board and identify how we would shift funds to complete our mission. That is the overall goal, that this is our guideline and that we move forward with it. But there may be some changes that we need to make, and we will discuss as a board before we do that, because of course we only have this authorization at this point if we move forward with it. With that, I would love to have a discussion about this proposed budget, thoughts, questions, things we should consider.
I have a question on the insurance. I
Yep.
assume this is directors and officers.
More than that, but it is directors of insurance, but it then would be property insurance for the any properties we acquire as well.
Okay, because I was gonna ask about property and general liability,
Yep.
so I appreciate that. Are you sure? D&O insurance is on the expensive side.
So we have different quotes. Well, I should say, we have different quotes from other entities with D&O insurance, not that we have pulled ourselves. In some cases, it is as low as $1,500. In some cases, it's closer to $20,000.
Okay.
And we also, to your point, Bob, this property acquisition and funding stream there, that is really situated for one house at this point. So we expect to have insurance on potentially one property, which would bring the cost down rather than having it on multiple properties.
I think with the idea being that in 2025, we do one property, surely we'll learn a lot of lessons along the way and set us up for years after that to hopefully increase that number.
What else?
And obviously this all hinged on the grant money.
Yes,
So,
yep. ARPA's
Otherwise,
committed
we'll
to,
all
we
do
just
it.
need to finalize the paperwork on that. So we know that $1 million is there. The 100,000, which the application is for $100,000 per year for 3 years. With a right to, I shouldn't say a right to renew, but the option to renew each year of those 3 years. So we are hopeful that we will receive that funding, and then in 2026 and 2027, we will as well.
For the staffing portion of it, is that for some folks that are here, or is that like additional headcounts?
So that is for another person, not necessarily for anyone here presently employed by Monroe County. It is also for generally a half or either a part-time or half-year position. So we don't anticipate hiring January 1st. We anticipate, as you recall from the ARPA and LBI funding applications, going through an effort to figure out exactly what's the best position to hire, what their job roles and desires would be. And that will take us in the first quarter, potentially into the second quarter of the year. And at that point, we'll have enough information to say, this is the position we need to help us move along. And so then we would be hiring someone halfway through the year, which is why it's at the current funding level. So we may see that salaries and wages go up in year 2 if we have someone on board that stays with us.
And that salary and wages could be reimbursement if the county, as we talked about last time.
Yes, so the intention right now is that the LBI funding will pay for that person to be working on the land banking funding, or the land bank. So year one, we're splitting it between kind of those organizational framework and that person. Year two, more of it will be dedicated to that person.
And procuring the insurance, so we can do that ourselves. Is there an opportunity to piggyback on the county's broker? What are we doing? What do you think?
That's a good question, one we need to figure out.
Is that something that, in terms of, how would we go about doing that in terms of if we can piggyback on the counties, as somebody who's.
We
on the
use
outside?
Brown and Brown at the county, to find our various insurance. They're affordable.
Yeah.
But I don't know, we got lawyers in the room. I mean, what do you think about using county procurement?
Go right ahead. You're still the purchasing attorney.
Well, I can say the concept of piggybacking, right, isn't necessarily a one-on-one with, professional services. So to use Brown and Brown, I'm gonna say this differently, depending on how the land bank procurement policy is drafted, assuming it mirrors county procurement. If the brokerage for insurance is less than $20,000, we do not need to go through a formal procurement policy, formal procurement request for proposal, because it's under the procurement threshold. So I suspect the answer is yes, but because we could go with Brown and Brown if the cost to the Monroe County Land Bank is less than $20,000, because it's actually below the procurement threshold, which I'm assuming it would be.
We're hopeful.
And I think, so the first year is gonna be easy with one property, not just to stay under, but like when you have multiple properties, they can each be insured separately. Now, the one thing I do think we should have a conversation with some other land banks is, typically when people own a bunch of homes and if people working on them, they pop them in different LLCs for liability purposes. We're not gonna do that. So just wanna talk to someone, see if they've ever had those kind of concerns of having 27 houses that the land bank owns. Somebody gets injured working on one of them and then sues the whole pile of the land bank with all of its assets. And whether then we'd need kind of a general policy, which would take us over the 20,000 for the entire portfolio like the county has, as opposed to individual property insurance on each one.
I think we're not there yet.
We're not there yet, but it's,
Can I ask, isn't the brokerage just the professional services,
Correct.
not
Which-
the actual policy?
Which would be under the 20,000, the brokerage for the county is,
50.
50 a
60
year,
grand,
and that's-
58.
Yeah,
$200 million of insurance products, so I couldn't imagine the brokerage will put us over $20,000, so it's not quite piggybacking, but it's rather the brokerage for the land bank's insurance should not be
over 20 grand.
2/5 of the whole entire county's brokerage, that would be,
Right.
quite sizable. And then
Other,
the individual, I'm sorry, and then the individual insurance would be a purchase separate from the
Mhm.
brokerage of the insurance.
And jumping ahead a little bit, the law department is in the process of drafting the policies. We anticipate in January or February, Q1 really is the best way to put it, that we'll start presenting those to this board for adoption.
Mhm.
So the policies that we were referencing don't exist yet, but will exist shortly.
You mean procurement?
Procurement, several others as well.
Yeah.
Directors, no, there's a whole bunch of,
Right, ethics, conflicts of interest, nepotism.
yep, there's a whole, most of them are done, but get them all to you guys at once.
other thoughts or comments about the proposed budget?
It looks realistic. I think it's appropriate.
Okay, hearing no other comments, can I have a motion to approve the proposed 2025 annual budget? Moved, seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? None? Okay, wonderful. The second was from, I believe you made the motion and Bob second. Thank you. Yep. Other business, just to, I think just to remind folks, with the ARPA question came up about ARPA funding. My understanding is all ARPA funds have to be accepted by December 31st of this year. Obligated by December 31st of this year. That is not just for the land bank, but there are several others that are, have that requirement. And so that is all well underway. There are several steps, I believe, remaining in the process, but we've been assured that should be completed. At least as of today, we don't see anything that should stop that. I don't know if there's any other business, Pat, that you have that you want to mention.
No, the only other thing is I have, and I apologize, I didn't put the slides up, but you have them in front of you. Just kind of what we proposed for the January meeting, if we meet, which is scheduled currently for January 8th, 2025, at 4 p.m., which is a Wednesday. We anticipate potentially having some board policies either before that date, so you can review them, or at least at that date, and then we can discuss and maybe in subsequent meetings adopt. We will need a bank account at some point, so we're going to be preparing some options to bring to this board in terms of banks that we can look at, what the rates and fees will be. We hope to at least start a discussion and ideally move forward shortly with the various committees we need. Those also will be built into some of the policies, but at a minimum, we need audit, finance, and governance. So those three will be discussed. And then anything else would be updates to our applications, if we have any success that we need to talk about, or anything else that this board does desire to talk about. Is there anything that jumps out at anyone that they would like to add to the next meeting agenda?
We're in December. We have to accept those funds by the end of the year, just a few weeks out. Are we gonna be okay waiting until January for a bank account?
Yes, so with the ARPA funding, the funds need to be obligated, and so the paperwork that we've already authorized Kevin to sign will do that. With LBI funding, we believe that will also be the case. We are waiting for a formal commitment, and so we haven't received any word about, what are the specific requirements. But if there's a need to do that, we can identify a way to move forward.
Okay,
But we can make a phone call to HCR after this meeting to make sure that there's, not a problem. We do have all the necessary documents to open up a bank account today if we needed to.
certainly.
And
It's
the,
an easy problem.
the ARPA funds will be disbursement by the county as incurred by the land bank. So it would not be a lump sum from the county to the land bank through a bank account, but rather as expenses are incurred, a disbursement through the county. Okay, so no bank account needed for ARPA at this time.
Thank you. I don't know if anyone has anything else they wanted to discuss here today?
For the, again, little pointers in the room. Authorities Budget Office. Board training.
Yep.
MCAA covers 10.
The
Airport Authority training, I mean, it's all ABO, right?
Yeah.
And
We are aware and we need to get everyone on board with that. And we actually need to, the authorization that was in the earlier form is for the ABO office. So we
Okay.
haven't actually completed our submission, but we will do so now that we have approval to do so. But then we can move forward with all that training and all those other things that need to happen.
And I think Bob's question is, if he has taken the ABO training as part of the airport authority, does that
Oh,
count
yep.
as land bank corporation
I see.
training? And actually probably ABO would be able to answer that.
Yeah, so we will have to give the ABO everyone's name who sits on this board, and then we can follow up with them. They've been very good to work with, even despite these, the board being an entity that is rather strict.
I would expect it would.
I
It's
would
not
think so.
tailored training for,
No,
for the Monroe
Yeah.
County Land Bank Corporation, but certainly the ABO should be.
Should be certificate driven.
Yeah, right.
yeah,
If not, well.
Anything else?
we do hope to have a press event sometime in Q1, just to talk about this entity moving forward. And all here will be invited, date to be determined.
We look forward to that. Hearing nothing else, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Sorry.
Okay, thank you all very much.